What if everything you see, the stars, the Earth, even your own body, isn't fundamentally real, but instead a kind of simulation? What if the universe itself is code, and we're all living inside a vast, cosmic program? It may sound like science fiction, but the idea that reality could be simulated has gained serious attention among philosophers, scientists, and even tech billionaires. Known as the simulation hypothesis, this theory proposes that our universe might not be a physical reality at all, but rather a computational construct created by an advanced intelligence. One of the most famous proponents of this idea is philosopher Nick Bostrom, who in 2003 proposed a now-famous argument. If any civilization reaches a point where it can simulate conscious beings inside a computer, and if it chooses to run such simulations, then the number of simulated realities could vastly outnumber real ones. Statistically, it may be more likely that we're in one of the simulations rather than in base reality. But what does this really mean? To explore it, let's first consider what a simulation requires: information, computation, and rules. If our universe behaves according to precise mathematical laws, which it appears to, then it may be computable. Quantum mechanics, relativity, entropy, all follow strict patterns that could be expressed algorithmically. Physicist John Archibald Wheeler once proposed the idea of it from bit, that all physical things emerge from binary information. If the fundamental layer of reality is data, then matter, energy, even space-time itself might be emergent phenomena, like pixels forming an image. But could a computer really simulate a universe like ours? Surprisingly, yes. In theory, the rules of physics could be programmed into a simulation with a finite amount of memory. Not everything needs to be calculated at once, only what's observed, like how video games only render what the player sees. Quantum mechanics may even support this. The famous double-slit experiment shows that particles behave differently when observed. Some argue this suggests the universe renders itself only when measured, like a simulation optimizing resources. Other oddities also raise eyebrows: the quantization of energy, the speed limit of light, and the Planck length, the smallest possible unit of space. These could be seen as signs of computational boundaries, limits that arise from discrete processing. Could such a system support consciousness? This is perhaps the biggest question. If consciousness is substrate-independent, if it can emerge from patterns of information, then there's no reason it couldn't arise in a simulation, just as it does in a biological brain. This ties into current research in artificial intelligence and neuroscience, both of which suggest that awareness may be a product of information processing. If so, then simulated beings could be just as sentient as us, assuming the simulation is detailed enough. But who or what would run such a simulation? One possibility is that a post-human civilization, a society far more advanced than ours, could simulate its ancestors for research, entertainment, or even ethical purposes. These simulations might be indistinguishable from reality to those inside them. Alternatively, we may be part of a simulation running inside a natural universe, created by beings we cannot even comprehend. Some suggest we might be inside a nested series of simulations, like Russian dolls, one reality embedded inside another. So how would we ever know? There are some who believe we might detect glitches, anomalies in physics that betray the presence of underlying code. Others look for patterns in cosmic rays, the distribution of galaxies, or even the values of physical constants, hoping to find signatures left by the simulators. In 2017, a team at MIT proposed that if we are in a simulation, there might be limits to cosmic resolution, just like pixels in a screen. Simulating an entire universe requires shortcuts, and some believe we might eventually spot them. There's also the tantalizing idea that if the simulation is interactive, it may respond to deliberate experiments. What if we tried to communicate with the simulator? Would it reveal itself? Some scientists treat this with skepticism. They argue that the simulation hypothesis is unfalsifiable, that is, it can't be tested, and therefore doesn't count as science. Others see it as a modern version of age-old philosophical questions about illusion, perception, and reality. But even if we never prove we're in a simulation, asking the question changes everything. It forces us to reflect on what is real. If a simulated mind can feel pain, love, joy, and curiosity, are those experiences any less valid? If our memories, our choices, and our relationships exist within code, does that make them meaningless or infinitely precious? And what about morality? If we are simulated, are we being watched, judged, graded? Does the simulation have a purpose? Or is it random, a cosmic sandbox left running while its creators move on? If this is a simulation, then perhaps the most important thing we can do is prove ourselves worthy of the processes or cycles we occupy. To create, to connect, to explore, to be more than background code. Alternatively, maybe the simulation hypothesis is metaphor, a way to grasp the strangeness of reality. We live in a universe with mysterious rules, bounded constants, and seemingly arbitrary conditions. Whether it's a simulation or not, it feels programmed. And perhaps that's enough. Ultimately, the simulation hypothesis isn't about escaping reality, it's about understanding it more deeply. Whether we're in a simulation or not, we are thinking, feeling beings, capable of awe and imagination. And if that's all code, it's the most beautiful code ever written.